The studio lights buzzed quietly overhead, but the room was filled with an unspoken tension. The host adjusted his mic, glanced at the audience, then back to the camera. "Tonight," he said with a spark in his voice, "we have someone truly special in the crowd. But he doesn't know it yet." Backstage, Keanu Reeves sat patiently in the green room. He thought he was just here for a quick interview, a casual appearance to support a new indie film. Nothing fancy. But something about the producer's nervous smile earlier had felt strange, like they were hiding something. "Keanu," the assistant said, poking her head through the door. "They're ready for you." He gave her that familiar soft smile, stood, and adjusted his blazer. Calm, humble, no trace of the star power he carried everywhere he went. The crowd erupted in applause the moment he stepped on stage. He waved, gave a slight bow, and took his seat. The host welcomed him, joked a little, brought up his latest project, and for a few minutes, everything seemed normal, until the screen behind them flickered to life. Without warning, a grainy video began to play. A dusty classroom, wooden desks, a younger Keanu, barely 16, sitting in the back row with messy hair and tired eyes. And at the front of the class, an older man, chalk in hand, full of passion, teaching like the world depended on it. Keanu blinked slowly, leaned forward. "Where did you find this?" he asked, his voice lower than usual. The host smiled. "We didn't. Someone sent it in. Someone who says you changed his life too, long before the world knew your name." The camera panned to the audience as an old man, thin and weathered, stood slowly from the third row. His eyes were glassy, his hands trembling slightly. The studio went silent. Even the air felt heavier. Keanu's eyes locked onto him. His lips parted, but no words came out. "Mr. Takashi," he finally whispered, almost in disbelief. The man smiled, and just that smile, made Keanu visibly swallow hard. "You never thought I'd remember you, did you?" the old man said gently. "But I never forgot. Not one day." And suddenly, the show wasn't a show anymore. The cameras kept rolling, but the moment belonged to them, and nobody else. Keanu stood up slowly, as if the ground beneath him had shifted. His hands trembled, but he didn't hide it. He walked toward Mr. Takashi, each step heavier than the last. The cameras zoomed in, but the audience wasn't breathing. They were watching history unfold. Keanu embraced him, tight, like a son holding onto a piece of the past he thought was lost forever. Mr. Takashi, despite his fragile frame, held him with surprising strength. The host gave them space. "I didn't think you were still alive," Keanu said, pulling back, his voice cracking. "I wasn't," Mr. Takashi said quietly. "Not until I saw what you became." Keanu blinked. "What do you mean?" The old man turned to the audience, took a slow breath and said, "He was a troubled boy. Everyone saw a problem. I saw pain. His mother had just passed. He stopped speaking in class, stopped turning in work. Other teachers gave up. I didn't." The crowd hung on every word. "I stayed after class with him. Every single day. I taught him how to channel what he felt. Into words, into stories, into silence that spoke louder than noise." He looked back at Keanu. "I didn't teach you how to act. I taught you how to feel. And you taught the world." Keanu's eyes were glassy now. He nodded slowly, as if every memory was returning all at once. But then the host turned to Mr. Takashi and asked something that shifted the entire tone of the night. "If you two were so close, why haven't you seen each other in over 30 years? The audience gasped. Even Keanu looked shocked. Mr. Takashi hesitated. His eyes dropped. "Because I disappeared." Silence. "I was diagnosed with a brain condition. Doctors said I had less than a year. I didn't want pity. I wanted to leave quietly. So I left the city. No phone calls, no goodbyes. Not even to him." He turned to Keanu. I thought you'd forget me, but you didn't. Keanu opened his mouth, but couldn't speak. He reached into his jacket and pulled out something small, a folded, wrinkled piece of notebook paper. He handed it to Mr. Takashi. The old man unfolded it carefully and gasped. It was a handwritten quote. Even broken people can build masterpieces. His own words, from decades ago. You kept this? All my life, Keanu whispered. And just like that, the audience was in tears. But what no one expected was the producer, rushing backstage, whispering urgently into a headset. Something else was coming. Something even Keanu didn't know. The host looked confused as the producer whispered something into his ear. His eyes widened, and for a moment, even he seemed unsure whether to go on. But then, he leaned into the mic and said, Ladies and gentlemen, before we continue, there's someone else who insisted on being here tonight. Someone who has been trying to find Mr. Takashi for over 2 decades. Keanu frowned. Before he could say anything, a woman appeared at the side of the stage. She looked to be in her early 40s, eyes nervous, clutching something close to her chest. Mr. Takashi turned and went completely still. Emiko, he whispered. The woman's lip trembled. Yes, Papa. The entire room froze. Keanu turned sharply. You have a daughter? Mr. Takashi nodded slowly, voice almost a whisper. I left her behind too, when I disappeared. Emiko stepped forward and handed her father the item she'd been holding, an old, faded photograph. In it, a young girl held a handmade card, and next to her stood Mr. Takashi, smiling proudly. I kept looking for you, she said, year after year, but no one knew where you'd gone, until I saw the promo for this show. Tears streamed down the old man's face. He clutched the photo like it was the only real thing in the world. Keanu stood silent, taking it all in. All these years, you lived like a ghost. And now suddenly, Mr. Takashi looked at him. I didn't want to be remembered as a burden. Keanu took a slow breath. But that choice left behind a lot of broken pieces. For the first time, the teacher looked truly ashamed. But Emiko stepped in. Keanu, she said softly, my father used to talk about you, even after he left. He had no photos, no contact, just memories. He said you were the only student who ever made him feel like he did something right. Keanu's expression softened. The audience was breathless. It felt like something bigger than just a reunion. It was closure. But just then, the host raised a hand again. I'm sorry, but there's more. We've just received a letter. It was delivered anonymously, addressed to Mr. Takashi and Keanu Reeves. And we've confirmed. It's real. Everyone turned to him. The host opened the envelope slowly. He began reading. Dear Mr. Takashi and Keanu, if you're reading this, it means I've failed to say these words in person. But I have to try, even from the shadows. Keanu's eyes narrowed. Who wrote that? The host looked up, shaken. It's from your former principal, the one who fired Mr. Takashi, the same man who said Keanu would never amount to anything. And in that moment, the audience felt it. A storm building behind the scenes. Something was about to be revealed that could flip everything upside down. The studio was dead silent as the host continued reading. I did something unforgivable. I ruined a man's life out of pride, and I nearly crushed a boy's future out of spite. Mr. Takashi, I knew you were innocent. I knew the accusations were false. But the board was pressuring me, and I was afraid to stand up for you. Gasps echoed around the room. Mr. Takashi lowered his head, eyes clenched shut, hands trembling. Keanu stared at the ground, jaw tight. But it didn't end there. The host read on. Keanu, I targeted you too. I saw something in you that I never had the courage to be. You had fire, and I tried to put it out. I thought if I could make you small, I'd feel big. But you proved me wrong. You became the man I couldn't." The letter ended there, with no name. Just the words, "I'm sorry. I hope someday you'll both find peace." For a long while, no one spoke. Then, Mr. Takashi slowly stood. "I waited years for this truth. I blamed myself, thought I had failed. But now," his voice cracked, "now I realize it wasn't weakness that drove me away. It was shame. And it nearly cost me my daughter, my dignity, everything." Keanu stepped forward and put a hand on his teacher's shoulder. "You didn't fail," he said softly. "You saved me. That one moment, that one stand you took, changed everything. I wouldn't be who I am without you." Mr. Takashi looked at him, tears flowing freely. "I should have fought harder." "You did enough," Keanu replied. "And now, it's my turn to fight for you." The host, clearly moved, signaled the crew. A screen descended behind them. "What's this?" Mr. Takashi asked. Keanu smiled gently. "A surprise." On the screen appeared the exterior of a beautiful, peaceful school nestled in the hills. "That's your new home," Keanu said. "I bought it, and it's yours to run. Teach again if you want. Or just be there. Be seen. No shadows. No hiding." The old man collapsed into a chair, sobbing silently. Emiko knelt beside him, holding his hand tightly. The crowd stood, applauding, not for the fame, not for the show, but for the healing. For the man who had once taught quietly and suffered silently. And for the boy who grew into a man with enough light to lift them both out of the darkness. As the lights dimmed and the show ended, cameras stopped rolling. But one last moment remained unseen by millions. As Keanu helped Mr. Takashi to his feet, the teacher whispered, "You were always more than a student. You were my redemption." Keanu nodded, voice barely audible. "And you were always more than a teacher. You were my first hero." And with that, they walked off the stage. Two lives once broken, now finally whole.